Well, hey friends, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to find freedom in both their life and in their business. I own a multi-7-figure-a-year coaching business. I'm also a certified life coach. So I have the honor of helping thousands of women every single month make money in the online space and help them to get unstuck from whatever is holding them back, all without sacrificing their faith or their family. In this show, you're going to get the very best life and business advice, always with a healthy dose of Jesus. So buckle in, my friend. I'm so excited that you are here. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. This is podcast episode, I believe, number 333, which seems fun, which seems right. I'm going to talk about consistency today on the podcast. So the other morning, Jason and I were having coffee, and somebody messaged me the other day, and they're like, "I thought you called him Mr. Magic." And I'm like, "Oh, well." Actually, my Facebook followers named him Mr. Magic because my Facebook page originally was called The Magic Brush because I had a painting company from the year 2000 to 2017 when I shut it down. So since my painting company was called The Magic Brush, when they would see Jason online, somebody nicknamed him Mr. Magic. It kind of stuck, as you can imagine. He didn't mind. So yes, Mr. Magic or Jason, whatever you want to call him. We were sitting having coffee, and I was reading something to him that I saw on Twitter. And it might be a surprise to you, maybe, that I have Twitter. I don't know. Yes, I'm on Twitter. You can probably tell a little more of my opinions about life and all the things on Twitter than you can on Instagram and Facebook, but just by the things that I retweet. But anyhow, so I'm on Twitter, and I see a gentleman that I follow there ask people to put down one word that he thinks, and he said that it can't be like money and it can't be like wealth, but like, what is one word? And his name is Steve Millionaire Habits, by the way. What is one word that you think makes rich people rich and poor people poor? And I was looking through the comments because there was a lot of them. And it was interesting to see people say luck, parents. And I'm like, okay, want, like you will probably stay stuck exactly where you are. But there was a whole lot of people that said consistency. And then I said to Jason, what do you think is something, one word what makes rich people rich and poor people poor? And he said consistency without even pausing. And I tend to agree with him. And so I want to talk about consistency on this podcast because today's actually the anniversary of when I launched this podcast, The Jennifer Allwood Show, 6 years ago. And I remember when I launched it because I was working with a marketing company out of New York City. They were trying to get me onto a television show for painting and decorating. And so they were working hard on that. And they're like, we just got, we need to still expose you to different people. Let's get you started on a podcast. They set me up with somebody. She helped me do the first couple of episodes. Then my friend Carrie Rabina taught me even more about the podcasting world. And now here we are at 333 episodes. Now, some of you remember when I used to only talk about business on the podcast. And so then I started something called Monday Fire, where I would just talk only on Mondays about anything that had to do with business plus the faith component. And I was like, let me keep the Jesus part over here on Mondays. And on Wednesday, I'll just stick, 90% at least to just business and can bring in some other things. And then we quickly realized after about 100 episodes, so not really that quickly at all, that'd be 100 weeks, right? So that's 2 years that why are we separating Monday Fires? Let's just call it what we're calling it. So all in all, I have close to 450 episodes of this podcast. And what I want to tell you is this. We hit 5 million downloads in the last couple of months, 5 million downloads. So it took 6 years to get to 5 million downloads. And what I wanted to tell you is, do you know it took over 3 years just to hit the first million? It was such a slow slog, you guys. I mean, yes, you listened, but you didn't listen like you do today. And my audience has not grown that substantially in the last 3 years. I mean, it has some on social media. My email list has grown tremendously, but we're putting more focus right now on podcast downloads and on email lists than what we even are on social media. So with that being said, it took me well over 3 years to even just hit my first million downloads. And now we're tracking for 1 million downloads a year. And the reason I wanted to share this with you is because in the beginning, I was like, do I keep going? Compared to the number of followers I had, the amount of downloads I was getting, like, was it even worth it? I wasn't even sure. And it just felt like another thing, you know what I mean? Like another one of those things on my list of things to do. And I am hyper focused on making sure that what I'm doing actually counts, because I don't know how many of you are like me and you're in the back 5 of life, which means, wait, did I say the back 5? Lord have mercy. The back 9. It's a golf term. The back 9, which means you're over 50. Oh, that's where I got that number 5. Okay. You're over 50. So if you're over 50 years old, such as myself, you're on the back 9 of life. You're on the second half. Okay. And so once you're in that second half, boy, it becomes just more ragingly obvious that every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And it becomes so obvious that you have to be super discerning of what you give your yeses to and what you're allowing to have your attention and your focus. And you can't let it just be every little thing. You can't do all of the things, and you're going to hyper focus on a couple of the things, which is actually going to move the needle. Right. So my team and I, we have sat down and we have talked about this podcast multiple times. And this podcast is the best thing that I do for free. It's one of the only things that I do for free. And, it ends up turning a lot of our audience into clients. In addition, this is the thing that you guys share even more a lot of times than my social media. So first of all, thank you. But what I wanted to say is this: we have been so consistent on this podcast. And I just want to say to you guys, I'm so proud of me and my team. Honestly, I feel like that one Snoop Dogg meme right now where he's like, I'd like to thank me for being me. I'd like to thank me for putting in the hard work. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Have you seen that on Instagram though? It's so funny. Okay. Anyway, it's not a meme. It's the audio to a reel. But literally for 6 years, we have barely ever missed a week. And let me tell you what we've done instead of missing a week. We have gone back and we've published old episodes, or we've taken a talk that maybe I did for my mastermind ladies and we've taken a clip out of it and we've made it into a podcast, or we've taken talks where I was in somebody else's summit online or something. We've gotten their permission to share it as a podcast, or my team has come in and done a podcast for me. And here's what I'm going to tell you. One of the reasons why I believe that we are now at 5 million downloads and we're hitting 1 million downloads a year easily at this point is because of the consistency. With that being said, there have been times when I've been like, I just don't feel like doing it this week. I just don't. I mean, when you're almost 450 episodes, sometimes you're like, what, again? I got to do this again. And then we went down to 1 episode for a while, but we saw how that really affected a lot of numbers and that kind of messed with my head and my ego. And I was like, no, we're going back to 2. And so, in order to stay consistent, and I want to encourage some of you guys about this for your own business. And I'm not talking about just podcasting, okay? Because I'm talking about consistency, and I'm just using my podcast as an example. What my team and I has tried to figure out and sit down and figure out is how can we make this podcast something that's sustainable, Jennifer, so that it doesn't feel like drudgery? Because a lot of times people get inconsistent in their business when something feels super heavy. And by the way, just because it feels super heavy does not mean that it's wrong. There's plenty of things that can feel heavy and they're not wrong. I've been trying to explain to one of my kiddos that the emotions of sadness and, pain and all those things, like those are just normal things. We don't have to label them as bad, right? So something can feel heavy, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you should just quit doing it. Too many people, that's when they throw in the towel instead of looking at the thing and going, okay, I feel like this is important, and yet it feels heavy and like drudgery. So how can I do it in a way where I am able to feel like, I'm able to do it consistently, but it's able to feel better for me? And one of the things that I love about my team, and Nell in particular, who's my director of operations, is she will ask me like, what do you need for this to look like, Jennifer, in order for it to feel good for you? And I love that. I love that. And you may not have a team and be listening to me today, and that's okay. I want you to think about something in your business right now that feels heavy and it feels like drudgery, but you know if you would just stay consistent with it, that it would move the needle. And I want you to think, okay, this is one of those things that I know I just need to be consistent. God's calling me to be consistent. I feel convicted that I need to be consistent. Okay, so what can you put into place? How can you make that thing easier so that you're able to stay consistent? Okay, because here's the truth about consistency. Too many people quit things too quickly. You haven't given time. Can I say that again? Some of you need to give time. You can't continue to do all of the right things and continue to get all the wrong results. You just can't. All right. So, and I think that a lot of times consistency will actually pay off and sustain you when your passion wanes. Can I say that again? Consistency will pay off and sustain your business at times when passion wanes. Because see, here's the thing. We are passionate people, right? Especially you creatives, especially you women that follow me that are super passionate people, very creative. Like we think if the passion goes away, then that must mean it's time to flip, switch, quit, try something new, etc. And no, listen, there's nothing biblical about only do it if you still feel passionate about it. That's not a biblical concept. We talk about passion more in the United States probably than any other place in the world, I think. Because we're all into our feelings, let's just be honest. That's why. I mean, there's people in, third world countries, they just wish that feeling passionate was something they got to worry about every day. Can I just say that? It's the truth. And so we think, well, if I'm no longer feeling passionate about it, then maybe I need to shift and quit. No, maybe you need to still be consistent. Maybe you still need to be consistent. In Galatians 6:9, it says, let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So listen, there needs to be more consistency, I know, in a lot of areas of my life. But I can tell you that when I am super consistent in one area, it does tend to roll over into others. It just does. And so if you're someone who is in business and you're feeling like, you have had a hard time stay consistent, I want you to examine why. And I want you to figure out what things can you put in place to hold your own feet into the fire, to show up consistently. So this means you're not showing up in your business once in a while. This means you're not showing up on social media just once in a while. This means you're no longer just playing, dipping your toe into things. No, you're actually consistently putting things up for sale. This means that you're actually sending out emails on a consistent basis. Listen, can I tell you something else about the world that we currently live in? You are forgettable. I am forgettable. The world is going at such a fast pace on social media, online, in all the different places that we are being hit from every angle. And we become irrelevant really quickly in the business space. The way you combat that is consistency. If you haven't used your email list in 6 months, you should not be shocked when you finally send an email and you get crickets back in sales. People are like, what did I sign up for? I don't even know what this is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know right now my focus is being very consistent with getting my big booty Judy down to the gym every day in my house. I am trying to be super consistent at going to the gym. I know every day, another place that I'm already very consistent on is in my social media DMs. I am really proud of how consistent I am about quickly getting back to people who send me social media direct messages. I just am. It's a place where I feel like it's a good expenditure of my time. And I feel like when I consistently have my finger on the pulse of my people and my clients, we can better design what they need and how to help them. And so listen, I want you to look at where you need to be more consistent in your life and in your business right now. Where do you need to show up even when you don't feel like it? I looked up the definition of consistent. It means unchanging in nature or standard or effect over time. Doing the same thing over time, especially as to be fair or accurate, was another translation. So listen, there are people who are watching you. There are people that need for you to show up consistently. You need to be consistent in how you speak. You need to be consistent in your behavior. If you behave one way Monday through Friday and like a complete knucklehead on the weekends, you need to stop, drop and roll. Because inconsistency is confusing. Can I say that? Inconsistency is confusing. When you're talking about your kids' headbands that you sell on Instagram, and then you're switching over and talking about taking your dog for a walk, and then what you're having for dinner, and have you read this Bible study? This is a new Netflix on. People are like, what does she even sell? What is she even standing for? Listen, if you're still in the beginning stages of growing your social media, be consistent. Don't be talking about more than about 3 things in the beginning. And I want like 90% of your content to revolve around a one thing. When your social media expands and grows, then you have earned the right to talk about other things. But in the beginning, you've got to be consistent and laser focused. Okay. I hope that this was helpful for somebody today. Just wanting to call you up to a more consistent showing up in your business. Also, if you missed my 3-day social success training that I did a few weeks ago, you can get all 3 days of those replays for free if you would like. It was all about growing your social media and your email list. You can go to jenniferallwood.com/social success and watch those trainings completely for free. My gift to you. Again, it's at jenniferallwood.com/social success. And it was my honor, as always, to be here. So thank you, friends, on this 6th year anniversary of the Jennifer Allwood Show. I just want you to know I'm so grateful for you. Every download, every share that you guys do, for each of you who has left a comment and a rating on the podcast, thank you. You have no idea how much those matter. In fact, if you've never left a rating on the podcast, would you go do that for me? Because let me give you an example. When people are trying to decide if they would like to be a guest on the Jennifer Allwood Show, and I don't have guests a lot, as you know, but when I make an ask of someone, here's how they decide. They can't tell how many downloads we've had other than just the number that I'm telling you right now. Nobody can go to like some particular place and see that we've had over 5 million downloads. But what they can do is they can look at the number of episodes we have, and they can look at the number of ratings that we've gotten and what those ratings are. And that's how a lot of times they can kind of deduce an estimate as to how many downloads that we're at and make a decision as to whether or not they want to be one of my guests. So I've got some people that I do want to be on the podcast this year. All of your ratings and leaving us a review, it would help so, so much. So if you would do me a solid and you would do that for me, if this podcast has ministered to your soul and to your business at all, I would appreciate it. You guys are literally the best. I will forever say I have the best listeners and the best social media followers on the planet. So thanks for being here, my friends. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you come back for every episode and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Every time I see you guys post about it on Instagram or Facebook or something, it just makes me do a little happy. So thank you. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you never want to miss an episode. So you can go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or any of the other podcasting places and subscribe each week so that every week you get the new episode when it releases. So just know that I love bringing you relevant content. I love bringing you great guests. And one of the ways you can help us here at Team Allwood is by leaving the podcast a review. So if you have just a second to do that, would you go over and leave a review for the Jennifer Allwood Show? Thank you again. You're amazing. I'm honored to be here. Until next week. Bye-bye.